Hey, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Good. That's very, very good. Today we're learning together Masechta Shabbis, Daf Kuftes Zayin, Daf 116. Beautiful daf, friends. What can I tell you? It's a very nice daf. No Tuma and Tara. Actually, there's a little bit, but it's more of like in passing. Anyways, so we start off with Vayib and Soha Aaron, that parsha that we discussed yesterday. Yesterday I referred to it accidentally at some point. I think I used the word parsha when I meant sefer. Anyways, then we're talking about saving margins of Sefer Torahs from fires, which is a little bit of an interesting discussion. And then that kind of segues into books of meeneem, books of like these heretical fellows. That gets into some interesting kind of discussions. And then, going back to that idea in our Mishnah of reading ksuvim on Shabbos. We say don't do it because of Bittul Beis HaMedrash. So we're going to discuss that in a little bit more detail. And we're going to finish off our learning together today with a discussion of when Erev Shabbos falls out on, Erev Shabbos will always fall out on a Friday. Good little thing to know. But when Erev Pesach falls out on a Shabbos, a little bit of halachas of the Korban Pesach, a little bit of get you in the mood for Psachim. I know we have a little bit of time till Psachim, but Psachim's a fun Masechta, if at least in my mind it is. Friends, Kuf Tes Vav Amud Beis, all the way at the bottom, 2 lines before, second line from the bottom. Tana Rabbanan Vayim Tzah Aaron Vayim Moshe. So we discussed a little bit yesterday this parsha of Vayibn Tzah Aaron. Of course, we say it whenever we open the Aron Kodesh in synagogue. Man, it's been a while since I've been to shul. This whole coronavirus thing. Well, let's just say it's the coronavirus thing. Anyways, let's move on. So, Vayibn Tzah Aaron Vayim Moshe. So if you look in a Sefer Torah, or probably many Chumashim, so around these, I think it's just 2 psukim. So there are inverted nuns. There are backwards nuns before and after the Parsha Vayibn Tzah Aaron. So Parsha Zo Asal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Simanius Milamayla Ulamata. So this Parsha of Vayibn Tzah Aaron, these 2 psukim, Hashem put these signs before the Parsha and after the Parsha. These signs being these backwards nuns. Lomar, to say, She'ein Ze Mekoma, that this is not the place where this Parsha belongs. It really belongs somewhere else, and we'll see in a few minutes where it does belong. Rebbe Omer. Lo min Hashem uzeh. No, this is not the correct explanation for the backwards nuns. It's not to indicate that this Parsha is in the wrong place. This Parsha is in the correct place. Elu mipnei she'sefer chashuvu b'fnei atzmo. However, so then what's the point of these signs? What are they indicating? They're indicating that these 2 psukim, even though they're only 2 psukim, they are their own sefer. And as I mentioned yesterday, so you have, essentially then, Sefer Bamidbar is divided into 3. You have Sefer Bamidbar up until Vayibn Tzah Aaron. Then you have Vayibn Tzah Aaron. And then you have the rest of Sefer Bamidbar. So Sefer Bamidbar, as we refer to it, is really 3 Svarim. Then you add those 3 to Bereshis, Shmos, Vayikra, and Dvarim. So you have 7 Svarim in the Torah. Come on, Az lahada Amr B'Shmuel ban Achmani Amr B'Yonasan. Like which of these 2 Tanoim that we just quoted, the Tanakama and Rebbe, like which one of them goes the following statement of Rav Shmuel ban Achmani Amr B'Yonasan? Chatzva Amudei Shiva. The pasuk in Mishlei says that the pillars of the Torah are carved out of stone into 7. Elu Shiva Sifrei Torah. These are the 7 books of Torah. Kiman ki Rebbe. So of course that would be like Rebbe, who said that Vayibn Tzah Aaron is its own sefer, and therefore there are 7 Svarim of the Torah. Man Tana de Poligale de Rebbe. This is interesting. Who is the Tana who argues on Rebbe? You guys will never guess. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, his father. As we saw the other day, right? As we saw the other day, you have Hillel, and hopefully I won't mess it up this time. Hillel, Shimon, Rabban Gamliel, Azaken, Shimon, Rabban Gamliel, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and then Rebbe Yehuda Nasi. So it sounds like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, his father, argues on him. The Tanya, as we learn in the Brayso, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Asida parsha zo shetiyaka mikan v'tikase b'mkoma, that in the future this parsha of Vayibn So'a Aaron will be removed from its current position and it will be written in its correct place. V'lama kasvakan, so then what's it doing over here? Why is it in its wrong place to begin with? It's there as a fence, as a buffer between one troubling situation to another troubling situation. What's the second troubling situation? That the nation was complaining. The nation was looking for ways to make problems with Hashem and to fight with Hashem, and that's when they asked for the slav, for the meat. Pranus Rishona, what was the first troubling situation? Vayisu mihar Hashem, that they traveled away from Har Hashem, they traveled away from Har Sinai, ve'amr Reb Chama Reb Chanina shesaru me'achrei Hashem, that they turned away from God. So we see that this parsha of Vayibn So'a Aaron is flanked on either side by sort of troubling situations where the Bnei Yisrael kind of were creating trouble with God. So then where does Vayibn So'a Aaron really belong? Amar Vashi b'dgalim. Vashi says it really belongs at the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, when it's talking about the encampments and all the flags and all the different tribes and how they would travel. So that's really where Vayibn So'a Aaron should be written. Ibai Yalahu. So this is kind of interesting. I think I'm kind of interested in it just because of these margins are interesting to me. I'll probably explain why in a minute, but anyways, Ibailu, they asked Akasha, Al Gilyonin shall Sefer Torah matzilin osam m'pnei adleika, or ein matzilin osam m'pnei adleika. So these margins of the Sefer Torah, do you save them from a fire or do you not save them from a fire? So what are these margins? These margins are essentially the white space of the Sefer Torah. So, and this is what I find so interesting. I love it, actually. It's super cool. That there are two components to the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah isn't just the writing. It's not just the letters. That's only one part. The other part is the white space. The white space isn't just the space where there's no writing. So memela, it's white. No, it's a component of the Sefer Torah. There's the written part of the Sefer Torah, and there's the blank part of the Sefer Torah, right? It's like they say in music, right? The music is just what is it? Or like an art, I don't know, all that negative space is kind of as important or maybe even more important than the actual, where there's actual, I don't know, drawing or musical notes and stuff, right? It's all this space between the notes are super important. So here also, right? It's not the main thing is just the writing in the Sefer Torah. All the area, the space around it, there are halachos about the space around it. That's also a crucial part. So what the Gemara is asking is, do you save, obviously if you have a Sefer Torah that's written and it's a kosher Sefer Torah, you're going to save that from a fire. But what if all the letters of the Sefer Torah were erased? What about the margins? The margins are intact. They're not just by default places where there was no letters written. No, the margins are a component of the Sefer Torah and the margins are intact. So is that enough? So would that, warrant, the cloth, the parchment to be saved on account of the white space? Says Rashi. There's a Rashi that says Shalmaila v'Shalmata. We didn't exactly read it yet, but this is I thought it was a cool Rashi. Shalmala v'Mata d'mitchila l'shem chala kaddish. That this white area was initially set aside to be white area, right? Again, it's not just by default the part that wasn't written on. It's the part that its purpose is to be there as white area, and that's what makes this part holy. So we want to know, if you have a Sefer Torah that all the letters were erased, so there's no more lettering, so obviously that part of the Sefer Torah is gone, but the margins are intact, so would you save that Sefer Torah? Ibayalu, they asked the kasha, Yonin shall Sefer Torah, the margins of the Sefer Torah, matzilin osam m'pnei adleika, or ein matzilin osam m'pnei adleika. So do you save these margins from a fire or not? Tashma, come in here. Sefer Torah shebala, im yesh bo lelakit shmonim v'chamish osios, kigon parshas vayibn so'a aaron matzilin v'mlave matzilin. Oh, so I think so we saw this yesterday, right? Or maybe not. maybe we saw something similar, but not necessarily if it worn out, but like a sefer that doesn't have. Anyways, we have a brisa that says that a sefer Torah shebala. No, where am I? I lost myself. Tashma sefer Torah shebala. If you have a sefer Torah that got worn out, so we say im yesh bo lelakit shmonim v'chamish osios kigon parshas vayibn Aaron. So if there are 85 letters, even if they're scattered throughout the Sefer Torah, if there are 85 letters in the Sefer Torah, so then matzilin, so then you could save it. V'imlav in matzilin. But if there are not 85 letters remaining, there's 84 or less, well then in matzilin you don't save the Sefer Torah. So the Gemara wants to say, Amai, why wouldn't you save the Sefer Torah? Typically mishum gilyon didei, right? Now if we would want to argue that you even saved the margins from a fire, so granted that all the text is gone from this Sefer Torah, but what about the margins? Shouldn't you save the margins? Why are we saying that if there aren't 85 letters, then you would not save the Sefer Torah? You got to save the margins, right? Bala shiny. So the Gemara says that would not be a proof to show that you would not save the margins, the fact that we let it burn, because in that case it was completely worn out. Not just the letters were worn out, the margins were also worn out. Like every part of it, right? The part that was supposed to be written on, worn out. The part that was supposed to be blank and left intact, worn out. So for that reason, that's why we do not save it from the fire, and it would not be a proof to teach us what about margins that are intact. Tashma, come in here. Sefer Torah shenimchak. If you have a Sefer Torah that's been erased, okay, so that looks like what we're looking for, right? So if you have a Sefer Torah, it was a kosher Sefer Torah, and then it gets erased, okay, the letters got erased, but all the margins are intact. If there are 85 letters in the Torah, kigon parshas vayibn Aaron, like parshas vayibn Aaron, matzilin, so then you would save it, v'imlavin matzilin. And if it doesn't have 85 letters in it, so then you do not save the Sefer Torah. Wow, there's a dog that's getting very excited. I wonder if he hears us learning. I assume not. I assume he doesn't. And I assume even if he did, he probably wouldn't understand. I don't know. Whatever. He's excited. What can I tell you? It's a little distracting for me, but what can I tell you? Anyways, so here we have a brisa, right? And in the brisa we're saying that if you have a Sefer Torah that the letters have been erased. So now basically, if the letters have been erased, let's just assume that like pretty much all the letters have been erased. So the assumption right now is that all this erased area is basically margin. What's margin? Margin is just blank space, right? So we want to say that, in a kosher Sefer Torah, so you have two components. You have the part where there's writing, so that's the writing part, and then you have the blank part, and that's margin. Now we're assuming over here that if you were to erase the letters, well then you're basically creating more and more margin. So what we're saying is that if you have a Sefer Torah that its letters got erased, and we're saying, well, it depends. If there's 85 letters, so then save it. If there aren't 85 letters, well then let it burn. Well, one second, why should we let it burn? Typically mishum gilyon didei. But what do you mean? But what about all this margin? If theoretically we're going to argue that you would save margin from a fire, well, when a Sefer Torah gets erased, it basically just becomes a whole lot of margin. And if we would argue that you would save the margin, so then you should save this Sefer Torah. From the fact that we're saying that if there's less than 85 letters, you wouldn't save it. Well, it sounds like then we don't save margins, right? So the Gemara says, well, one second. Let's actually think about this. Makom aksav lo kami ba'yali. So the Gemara says, look, I'm not asking about the place where there was actually text written. Dechi kadosh agav ksavu du kadosh, because remember there are two components of the Sefer Torah. There's the part where there's text and where there's supposed to be text, and if there is no text, well then it's not what it's supposed to be. And then there's the other part which is margin, and it's supposed to be blank. Okay? So it says, right, so makom aksav lo kami ba'yali dechi kadosh agav ksavu de kadosh, that when we're talking about the written area of the Sefer Torah, the only time that it has kedusha, or the only reason why it has kedusha, why it has holiness, is because of the letters, right? The part where there's supposed to be letters, So it's that part of the Sefer Torah, that component of the Sefer Torah is holy because of the letters that are there. Azal ksav, azal kedushase. When the letters go away, so any holiness that was connected to that part of the Sefer Torah, the part that's meant to be written, goes away when the letters go away. It's no longer holy. It no longer has sort of the defining characteristic that made it holy in the first place. However, kikami bayali shalmaila v'shalmata. The Gemara says what I'm more interested in knowing about is the blank space of the Torah that was intended to be left and used as blank space. The parts above the text and below the text. Shebein parsha leparsha, between the different parshios in the Torah. I assume what that means is like parsha psucha, parsha stuma, right? When there are like blanks between the sections of text. Shebein daf ledaf, between the different pieces of parchment. Shebetchilas hasefer, shebesofa sefer, the spaces at the beginning of the Sefer Torah, at the end of the Sefer Torah. There's extra space for wrapping it. So the Gemara says that's what I want to know about, right? So therefore, so the Gemara kind of wants to say that brisa where it says that a Sefer Torah, that its letters have been erased and we would not save it. So the Gemara kind of wants to argue that brisa is only telling me that we wouldn't save the parts that initially had letters when it was a kosher Sefer Torah and the letters got erased. That part we wouldn't save from the from the fire. The Gemara says, but what I want to know about, meaning, and even though all the letters are gone and it would technically be considered margin at this point, but that margin doesn't have any kedusha because that margin only has kedusha when it has letters on it. The letters go away, then the kedusha goes away, right? And therefore, we would no longer save those parts of the Sefer Torah. The Gemara says, what I want to know is about the margins around the parts that are supposed to have letters. Would you save those? To which I'm sure many people are confused and thinking like, yeah, but aren't they all, how can you save one without the other? Which is what the Gemara says right now. The Gemara says, I don't understand what you're hacking a chinik about. Learn it out from that brisa. No, we said that a Sefer Torah, if the letters go away, so then you don't save the Sefer Torah. It's all, you can't just save, the margins while letting the part where there used to be letters burn. It's all one Sefer Torah. And what we're saying is that when the letters go away, you don't save the Sefer Torah, and that includes the margins. So the Gemara says, not necessarily, the guy is vishadi. No, the Gemara is not satisfied. It's not, that brisa isn't clear enough, because I can argue that what that brisa is talking about is when you removed the written parts from the rest of the margins. So you have a Sefer Torah, all the letters get erased, right? So then you take all the part where there used to be letters, you cut out those parts, and now that is about to get burnt by a fire. And we're saying you don't save those because those parts don't have Kedusha, because they only ever had Kedusha on account of the fact that there were letters written on them. And now they don't have letters written on them, therefore we wouldn't save them. However, the Gemara says, what I want to know is what about those margins? What about those margins that are intact? Would we save those? Well, we still don't have a proof either way. Tashma, come in here. Hagilyonin shalmaila v'shalmata, the margins that are above the letters, that are below the letters, shebein parsha lefarsha, between the different parshas, shebein daf ledaf, between the different pieces of parchment, shebetchilas hasefer, shebesof hasefer, that are at the beginning of the Sefer Torah, at the end of the Sefer Torah, mitamin hayadayim. So all these margins are mitamin hayadayim. They make your hands tameh, right? Remember we learned that. Where did we learn that, friends? Masechta Yadayim. But apparently it also came up in like the first parak when we were talking about all that Tumah and Tara stuff and the 18 things of Beis Shammai. Anyways, remember we said that they made a gezerah that all the Sfarim of Tanakh, if you touch them and make your hands tameh. The reason why they said that was because they used to put Truma together with Sifrei Torah, right? Because Truma has to be kept in purity, and the Sefer Torah also we wanted to you would want to keep in a safe space. So they would basically put the Truma and the Sefer Torah in the same place to keep them both secure. The problem is the mice would come looking for the food, for the Truma, and then they would come and eat the Sefer Torah as well. And therefore, to prevent you storing your Sefer Torah with your Truma and prevent Sefer Torah from getting eaten by mice, they said, you know what? Sefer Torah are going to be mitame, or all Sfarim in general, are going to be mitame esayadayim, and they will be mitame Truma. And therefore, if you put them together, your Truma is going to be considered tame. Therefore, that would prevent people from putting them together. So we see that it's not just the text of these Sfarim that would be mitame yadayim, even the margins. And therefore, we want to argue, so you see that the margins do have Kedusha, and therefore they are significant, and therefore we should save just margins from a fire. Dilma agav Sefer Torah shiny. So the Gemara answers, no, maybe in that case, the only reason why the margins are mitame the yadayim is because of the fact that they are part of a kosher Sefer Torah. So since the kosher Sefer Torah is mitame the yadayim, so also the margins are. But what if the Sefer Torah was erased? Would the margins themselves have Kedusha? We're still trying to figure that out. Tashma, come in here, friends. Haguyonin Shalmaila. Oops, I just read that. 2 lines later. Tashma, Haguyonim, the margins, Visifrei Minin, and the Sifrei Minin, the books of heretics. Okay. I don't know if these are like these early Christian fellows. I don't know. I mean, in the past, it's kind of been like that. And it's always in the context of these like books and scrolls. In Akoponim, Tashma Aguyonim v'Sifrei Minin, the margins and these books of heretics. Ein matzilin osam pnei adleika. It's basically these Tanachs. It was these Tanachs of that belonged to heretics. Yeah, they would write these heretics would write Tanakh, books of Tanakh. So we say that these Tanachs and margins of these heretical fellows, ein matzilin osam pnei adleika, you would not save them from the fire. Ella nisrafin b'mkomon. Rather, they would just be burnt in their place. Hein vaz krosein. Them and even the Shemos Hashem that are written on them, they would just get burnt because they're all part of these Sefer Aminim, Sifrei Aminim. New friends, what do we see? We see Gilyonin v'Sifrei Aminim. Margins are going to get burnt. My love, Gilyonin the Sefer Torah. New, what we're saying is the margins of Sefer Torah, as well as books of heretics, you don't save them from a fire. Lo, Gilyonin the Sifrei Aminim. No, it's talking about the margins of these books of heretics. V'Sifrei Aminim gufayu matzilin. Gilyonim ibaya. So the Gemara says, what? Why would the Bryce have to tell us that the books of the meeneem, as well as their margins, you don't save? Obviously, if you don't save the books themselves, obviously you're not going to save the margins. Hachi ka'amar v'sifrei meeneem arein ki gilyonim. No, what it means is that the Sifrei Meeneem are like margins, i.e. even the text, anything written in them is irrelevant. It's just blank. They're like margins. They're of no significance, and all of it gets burnt in the fire if there is one. Gufa agoyonim v'Sifrei Meeneem in matzilin osum pnei adleika. Okay, so we just said that that these margins and Sifrei Meeneem, or really as we defined as these books of heretics, which are just considered like blank margins, in matzilin osum pnei adleika, we don't save them from a fire. Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi, b'chol, what if it's during the week? So on Shabbos we just let them burn. Says Rabbi Yossi, if it's during the week, however, koder sa'azkaru sheboen v'gonzan v'ashar sarfan. Rabbi Yossi says, if it's during the week, however, cut out the names of God and bury those properly, or put them away, store them away properly. But the rest of the books you would let burn. Amr Tarfin ekpach es bonai. We saw that once before. Rabbi Tarfin says, "I'll bury my children." Wow, that's how Rabbi Tarfin would say, when he wanted to say something very forcefully, very strongly, lasun shvua, like a swear. Shem yavou liyadai shani esrof osam v'sazkaru sheboen. If they come into my hands, I will burn them and any mentioning of God's name as well. Shafilu adam rodef achrav lohargo, because even if you have a person chasing, even if so Rashi is talking about himself. Even if somebody was chasing after me to kill me, v'nach ashratz la'achisho, and I also had a snake running after me to bite me. I was in a pretty shvera matzav. Nichnas leveis avodah zara, ve'nichnas levatein shel elu. I would rather run for refuge into a house of idol worship than to run in for safety into the house of any one of these heretics. She'alalu makirin v'kofrin, v'alalu ein makirin v'kofrin. Because the heretics, these are people who used to be Yidden. They were born Yidden, and then they went off to heresy. So they makirin v'kofrin. They recognize God. They know about God. They're educated. They grew up in a Yiddish house, and nonetheless they rejected it. Whereas idol worshippers, lemaisa, they were born into idol worshipping families. It's what they know. So it says Rabbi Tarfon, I would rather run into a house of avodah zarah than to run into the house of one of these heretical fellows. And therefore, Valena Kasav Omer, and about them the pasuk says, V'achar adeles v'amzuzah sam zichronech, that behind the door and the doorpost, you put your memory. Keilu, you know about God, but you've decided to ignore it and to put it aside. So Rabbi Tarfon says, he argues on Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, look, I would remove the Shemus Hashem and let the rest burn. Rabbi Tarfon says, forget it. These guys are the worst. Just burn it all. There's nothing to be salvaged over there. Even the Shemus Hashem. Rabbi Yishmael Kavachomer. Rabbi Yishmael learns like Rabbi Tarfon that you would let the whole Tanakh of these Sifrei Aminin burn. He says a Kavachomer, Malaisos Shalom ben Ish li Ishto Amr Torah Shmi Shenichtav B'Kedusha Yimach El Hamayim Alalu Shemat. Okay. So again, Umalaisos Shalom ben Ish li Ishto, right? To make peace between man and woman, right? You have right, in the situation of a sota, you have a man and a woman who the man thinks that maybe his wife has been having an extramarital relationship, and so we have that whole sota situation where they go to the Beis Hamikdash and they prepare this drink, and in that drink, the name of God is dissolved in that drink. Now, Amr Torah Shmi Shenichtav B'Kedusha, my name that was written in holiness, Yimacha Alamayim Alalu, should be dissolved in these waters, so that they can resolve kind of the uncertainty of this relationship between man and woman. So matzilin kina ve'eva v'sachrus ben Yisrael avim shebashamayim. Now these heretical fellows, that they place like jealousy and anger and competition between the Yidden and their fathers and their Father in heaven, alachas kam v'chama, certainly just let it all burn. Right there. There's nothing to salvage there. V'aleim Amar David, and about these heretics, David said, Halo misanecha Hashem esna, those who hate you, God, I will hate. Uviskomemecha eskotad, and those who rise up against you, I will fight. Tachlisina sanesim. By the way, no, sorry. So misanecha, I don't know how I define misanecha, but it's not just those who hate you. It's those who make others hate you, like these heretics that try to sort of bring people against God, to turn people against God, right? So David Melech says he hates them. Tachlis sina sinesim. I've mamish hated them with the utmost level of hate. Wow, la'oivim hayuli, they were enemies to me. Wow. And it's just like we don't save these Sifrei Minin from fires, we also don't save them from, fallen down houses, and from if they get into water or anything else that might destroy them. Okay, so we see that Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Yishmael both are of the opinion that you would not salvage any part of these Sifrei Minin if they were in a fire. So Rav Yosef bar Chanan asked Rabbi Abo, Hani Sifrei Devei Avidan Matzilin also Mipnei Abdleika or Ein Matzilin. These books of the Bei Avidan. So Rashi says that the Bei Avidan was these houses where these heretics would argue against the rabbis and try to like prove them wrong and outsmart the rabbis. So they produced these books that they would have their arguments in them. So right, the books would have their arguments written. So Rav Yosef bar Chanan asked Rabbi Abo, Hani Sifrei Devei Avidan, these books of this place of Avidan, Matzilin Osan Mipnei Adleika Ein Matzilin, would you save them from a fire or not? Now, I don't understand why you would want to save them. I don't know, maybe they have like Shem Hashem in them? I don't know. So Amarle in v'lav v'rafia biyadeh. Sometimes Rabbi Abba would say, yeah, you would save them. Sometimes he would say, no, it wasn't clear to Rabbi Abba what he should do. Okay. Rav lo azul be'avidan. Rav would refuse to go to these be'avidan places where they can argue with him. V'choshken levei nitzufei, and certainly he wouldn't go to Beit Nitzufei, which was actually like in Avodah Zarah, like where they would actually do Avodah Zarah. You certainly wouldn't go there. Shmuel levei nitzufei lo azil, levei avidan azil. Shmuel, however, while he wouldn't go to the Avodah Zarah house, to the Beit Nitzufei, but he would go to this be'avidan and argue. Amrulei the Rava, my time lo asas levei avidan. So these be'avidan people, they said to Rava, they said, hey, why don't you come argue with us? So Amr Loen dikla planya ika ba'orcha v'kashili. He says, look, it's a very nice offer, but lemaise, on the way to Be'avidan, the way I have to travel, there's a big palm tree, and it's very difficult for me. The roots, they make the path difficult, so I just can't get there. Niakre duchte niakre. So they offered, well, we will uproot it for you. Duchte kashili. He says, yeah, but even so, then the hole is going to be difficult for me. Sorry, guys, can't make it. Okay. Mar bar Rav Yosef Amar, Anu minayu ana. Mar bar Rav Yosef said, look, I'm one of them. I have a good relationship with these fellows. V'lo mistafira minayu. I'm not scared of them. Zimnachada azo ba'u l'sakune. And surely, look what happened. One time he went to this Be'avidan and they tried to harm him physically. And Rashi says that was the reason why Rav and Rava avoided going to Be'avidan, because it wasn't just that they would argue with you. Lemaisa, it seems like it was they might actually try to hurt you. It seemed like a shtickle of a rough place, this Be'avidan. Ima shalom devisud Rabbi Eliezer achte Rabbi Gamliel havai. Friends, file that somewhere. Ima Shalom was the wife of Rabbi Eliezer. Friends, who was the wife of Rabbi Eliezer? Ima Shalom. And who was she? Who was her brother? Rabbi Gamliel. Very cool, right? Right. So Ima Shalom was the wife of Rabbi Eliezer, and she was the sister of Rabbi Gamliel. Havahu philosophia b'shivavuse, and there was a certain philosopher that Rashi says is a min, okay, one of these heretical fellows. And he lived in their community. And he apparently had this reputation that he was very fair, very straight. He would not take bribes when he would preside in court. And now Ima Shalom and Rabbi Gamliel wanted to expose this fellow to prove that he in fact does receive bribes, albeit in a very quiet way. Ailale shraga de daiva. So Ima Shalom brought to this fellow, this heretic fellow, a golden candelabra. V'azul lekame, and then she and her brother Rabbi Gamliel came before this heretical fellow. Amrle, and she made her argument to this fellow. But ina denifligeli benichse devei nashai. She says, look, our father died. I want a part of the inheritance, and they won't let me have part of the inheritance because I'm a woman. Amrlu plogu. And this fellow has been bought off by Ima Shalom. Sure enough, he says, look, divide it up, 50-50. I don't see, what's the problem? She should get half, and you should get half, Rabbi Gamliel. Amrle ksivlan. So Rabbi Gamliel said to this fellow, he says, yeah, but it's written in our Torah, b'makom bra bartelo siros. If there's a son, the daughter doesn't inherit. So I get everything, she gets nothing. Omar lei. So this fellow says, min yoma digalisun me'ar achun is netalis oraisa de Moshe ve'isyavis sifra achrise. So this fellow responds and he says, yeah, Rabbi Gamliel, that's very cute, but the fact of the matter is that from the day that you were exiled from your land, which is interesting because I assume that they were still in Eretz Yisrael, but it was after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So from the day that you've been exiled from your land, it's netalis oraisa de Moshe So the Torah of Moshe has been removed, V'syahivas Sifra Achrisa, and it's been replaced with a different book. Uchsiv Bey, and it says in this new book, Bro Varta Kechada Yarsun, that brothers and sisters, sons and daughters inherit equally, and therefore, Rabban Gamliel, it's very cute that your Sefer Torah says that you get all, but your Sefer Torah has been replaced, and the replacement says that y'all should divide equally. Limachar, the next day, Hadar Aya Lei'iu Chamar Luba. The next day, it's funny, it sounds like the story of like Rava and Abaye with, who is that fellow who would interpret the dreams? One of them, Barhedja, one of them paid him, one of them didn't, right? So now the next day, Rabban Gamliel brought a Lubian donkey, a very geschmacka donkey, and that was more that was fancier than the golden candelabra. So lemachar adar ayaleiu chamer lubas, and the next day Rabban Gamliel brought this heretic a luba donkey. Omerlu, to which all of a sudden things changed. And this fellow said, by the way, Shvilis Sefer de Sifra, by the way, remember this replacement book that I was telling you about that says that y'all should all inherit equally? Well, actually, by the way, if you go to the end of that book, it says, Uchsiv Bey, Ana lo lemifchas min oraisa de Moshe Asisi, v'lo le'osve al oraisa de Moshe Asisi. It actually says at the end of the book that I, the author of the book, am not coming to diminish from the book of Moshe, nor to add on to the book of Moshe. The book of Moshe remains intact. Uchsiv Bey, and it says in the Torah, in the book of Moshe, b'makom bra barta lo siros, that when there is a son, the daughter shall not inherit, and therefore everything goes to Rabban Gamliel. Amrle nohor nohorich kishraga, to which she kind of says, hey, Mr. Heretic, wink wink, your light is as light as a candelabra, i.e., hey, what the heck is going on? I bribed you. Amrle Rabban Gamliel, to which Rabban Gamliel says, wait, asa chamra uvitesh shaga. Yeah, but a donkey has come and kicked away the candelabra. Right? The point was that they were exposing him and his bribes and how he got caught up in a web of corruption. All right. Very nice. So the Mishnah went weiter, and the Mishnah said, how come we don't read ksuvim on Shabbos? So we said because of Bittul Beis HaMedrash, because we want you going to the shir, we want you going to the halacha shir, and if you're learning, shir hashirim, so then you might get absorbed in shir hashirim or mishlei or rus or whatever, any of the ksuvim, and you might and then you won't go to the halacha shir. And once you go to the halacha shir, so we say don't read ksuvim on Shabbos. Amar Rav, said Rav, lo shanu ella bizman beis hamedrash, aval shelo bizman beis hamedrash korin. So Rav says, look, when we say not to read ksuvim, that means don't read ksuvim when the shir is going on. We want you going to the halacha shir. After the halacha shir, read whatever you want. Read ksuvim. That's very nice. You want to spend your Shabbos afternoon reading ksuvim. Ushmuel amar afilu shelo b'zman beis hamedrash in korin. Shmuel says, no, even when the shir is not going on, Shabbos afternoon even, do not read ksuvim on Shabbos. Ini, is that really true? V'narda asrei de Shmuel hava. Oh, friends, another thing to file away. We've seen this before, but we want to reiterate it. Where was Shmuel? Shmuel was in Naharda. So the Gemara says, wait, how could it be that Shmuel is saying that you may not read ksuvim even when there's no halacha shir going on, even in the afternoon after the halacha shir? How could it be that Shmuel says that you're not allowed to read ksuvim at all on Shabbos, but after all, Naharda was Shmuel's town. Uvnarda paske sidra b'ksuvim b'minchasa de Shabbata. And in Narda they would read ksuvim at mincha on Shabbos. One second. On the one hand, we're saying that Shmuel says that you're not allowed to read ksuvim at all on Shabbos. And on the other hand, in his own town, they would read ksuvim on Shabbos afternoon at mincha. Ella Yitmar hachi yitmar. No, if we're going to state the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, it's in the following way. Amar Rav, lo shanu ela b'makom beis hamedrash, aval shelo b'makom beis hamedrash korin. Rav says that when we say that you don't read ksuvim, it means don't read ksuvim in the Beis HaMedrash, in the physical location of the Beis HaMedrash. Outside of the Beis HaMedrash, you can read ksuvim. You're at home. Read ksuvim. Very nice. Ushmuel Amar bein b'makom Beis HaMedrash, bein shelo b'makom Beis HaMedrash. Bizman Beis HaMedrash ein korin, shelo bizman Beis HaMedrash korin. Whereas Shmuel says, it doesn't matter where you are. What matters is when you want to learn it. If you want to learn ksuvim at the time that the halacha shir is going on, that's not okay. Shabbos afternoon, you want to learn ksuvim? Gesundheit, hey, learn ksuvim. That sounds very nice. Whether you're in the Beis HaMedrash, whether you're at home, it doesn't matter. As long as there's no halacha shir going on right now, read ksuvim. That's very good. Vaz the Shmuel l'taimei, and of course Shmuel is consistent with this reasoning to benar doa paske sidra d'chsuvim b'minchas d'shabbata, because after all in Arda they would read ksuvim at Mincha and Shabbos. Rav Ashi Amar L'Olam Kedamar Me'ikara. So Rav Ashi says, actually no, it's really like the first way that we explained the machlokas. That Rav says that you're just not allowed to learn ksuvim during when the halacha shir is going on. Afterwards you can learn ksuvim. And Shmuel says you're not allowed to learn ksuvim at all on Shabbos. Ushmuel Rabbi Nechemya. And Shmuel holds like Rabbi Nechemya. What's Rabbi Nechemya's opinion? The Tanya, as we learn in the Brisa, Af al pisha amru kisvei hakodesh ein korin bain. Even though we say that you don't read kisvei hakodesh, you don't read ksuvim on Shabbos, aval shonin bain, but you can learn them. Kilu, don't read them. Don't read Megillas Esther because you like the story, but you can learn it. You can learn the medrash. You can learn the medrash on Megillas Esther if you want. V'dorshin bain, you can give shiurim on them. Sort of more of a deeper learn of it. Nitzach lepasuk mevi v'roebo. If you need a pasuk from Megillas Esther, you can go look it up and quote it. Amr ibn Nechemya pneima amru kisvei hakodesh in korin bain. And Ibn Nechemya says, how come they said that we don't want to casually read kisvei hakodesh on Shabbos? Kedei sheyomu b'kisvei hakodesh in korin v'kol sheken b'shitrei hadjotis. Ibn Nechemya said, because the reason why we say that we don't want you to read ksuvim on Shabbos is not because there's anything wrong with ksuvim, it's part of Tanakh. But the point is, if we take such a drastic measure as to say, we don't want you to read ksuvim on Shabbos, well then guess what? We certainly don't want you to read, business documents and legal documents and things that, if you can't even read Shir Hashirim, you can't even read Mishlei, Eov, you can't even read these things on Shabbos, well then certainly I shouldn't be just like looking at documents or anything like that. No, so we see, so Rav Ashi wants to argue that Shmuel actually holds like Rav Nechemya, which is that you mamish do not read ksuvim at all on Shabbos because we don't want you to show you that we don't want you reading ksuvim and certainly not shitrei chovis, right? And hadjotis, certainly not just regular documents. And Rashi says, what about the fact that in Narda they would read from ksuvim in Shabbos afternoon? So he says regarding that in the shul on Shabbos afternoon, so he paskined, the minig, he had the minig in his place, like the chachamim, that the issue was for bittul Torah, and if it's at Shabbos Mincha as like a haftorah kind of thing, it's not, it's under control, and he said that would be acceptable, even though he holds that in general you don't read from ksuvim on Shabbos. Okay, fine. Says the Mishnah, Matzilin tik a sefer im a sefer v'tik a tefillin im a tefillin. So the Mishnah says that when you save a sefer Torah from a fire, or if you're saving tefillin from fire, you can save them with the bag that they're in as well. And even if there's money in those bags, no problem, save the sefer Torah in the bag with whatever money might be in there. It's fine. Friends, mavuz. Everybody knows what a mavui is by now, right? Right. Remember, you have Rishus Harabim. Right, you have Rishus Harabim, and then what they would do is you would go kind of from the Rishus Harabim into this mavui area, and then it's like an alleyway, Kilu, and then off of the alleys would be these courtyards, and in the courtyards would be their houses. Okay? So the mavui was that kind of alley out of which open into these courtyards, and then the houses are in the courtyards. So a mavui hamifulash is a mavui that goes straight through. So you have Rosh Hashanah, then you go out through this alley, and the alley is open on the other end as well. So it's an alley that's open on both ends, and there's like a chatzer on either side of the alley. A mavui she'eno mefulash means that it's a dead end alley. So there's Rosh Hashanah, you can then veer off into this alley, and there are kind of chatzeris going out of the alleyway, but it's a dead end. You can't get through. That's a mavui she'eno mefulash. So the Mishnah says, leichan matzilin osam. When we say that you're allowed to save these svarim from a fire, where do you save them to? So the mavui she'eno mefulash. You could save them into an alley, a dead end alley. Ben Beseir Omer after the mefulash. Ben Beseir says you can even save these svarim into a closed alley. No, not closed alley. An open alley. An alley that's open on both sides. Right? So Tanakama says only into an alley that's a dead end alley. Ben Beseir says even an open alley. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, asar shechalios b'Shabbos. If the 14th day of Nisan falls out on a Shabbos, i.e. it's Erev Pesach, and on Erev Pesach, one of the things that you do is you have to offer the Korban Pesach. You go to the Beis HaMikdash, you slaughter the Korban Pesach over there, then you take it with you and you bring it home. So what if the 14th day of Nisan falls on a Shabbos? It happens sometimes, l'maaseh. So mafshitin as a Pesach arechaz ediv Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. So according to Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, so you just slit the hide until the chest. Meaning, what they would do is they would slaughter the sheep, the Korban Pesach, and then was it a sheep or was it a goat? I don't remember. It was a little sheep. I think it was a little sheep, maybe. Maybe it could be either a little sheep or a little goat. I don't remember, but it's got to be little. Anyways, so you shech the Korban Pesach, and then I think it's maybe a sheep. So then you hang it by its legs, and then when you strip the hide, you would then slit it from the top down to its chest. Then you would take your hand, you would reach inside of the animal and pull out the emurin, the fats and stuff that would go on the mizbeach for God. So says so according to Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, when the 14th day of Nisan was on Shabbos, so you basically do the minimum amount that you need to in order to remove the emurin. So you basically slit the hide in the middle of the body down to the chest, and you would take out whatever specified fats and things that you would put on the mizbeach, and then you would leave the skin, the rest of the hide on there until the evening, and you would finish removing the hide after Shabbos. Because we don't want you doing more than you absolutely must on Shabbos. Whereas the Chacham say, no, you can remove all of the hide. Remove all of the hide. You don't just have to do the minimum amount. Bishlam Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, da'is avid leit tzorech gavo. I understand Rabbi Yishmael ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka's opinion, which is, once I've already done what I need to for God, which is to remove the fats and put them on the mizbeach, I shouldn't be doing any more malacha. I shouldn't be removing the hide any more than I need to. El Rabban in my time, but according to the rabbis, why am I doing all this extra work that is really unnecessary for what must be done right now? After all, it's Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Bar Bachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, to Amar Krakal, Paul Hashem l'mayneu. That anything that God does is for His honor. Therefore, what is this way that we're making sure to honor God right now by removing all of the hide? Rav Yosef Rav Yosef says, well, because if you leave the hide on, the hide keeps the meat warm, and since the animal's already dead, it's going to make the meat rancid and putrid and no good. So we don't want that to happen. That wouldn't be very mechubad for God. So therefore, remove all of the hide to make sure that the meat remains intact. Rava Amar, Shelo yu kadshe shemayim mutalin kinevela. Whereas Rava says, it's pashut, it's a shtickle bizayandik. If you have this cart, is basically you shechted this animal and it's just lying there with its skin half removed. It's bichlal not mechubad for this animal to be like that. So that is why the Chacham say you can completely remove the hide. My benayu, what could be a possible nafkamina between Rav Yosef, who says it's about it going putrid, and Rava, who says that it's about, michubad. Well, what if you take this sheep that is half removed from its hide and put it on a golden table? Well, if you put it on a golden table, well, Rava would say, okay, well, that's fine, it's michubad, it's on a golden table after all. Whereas Rav Yosef would say, yeah, but it's still going to go bad. Inami yoma de istina. Or, another nafkamina is, what if it's a very pleasant day where there's a nice northern wind and it's not too hot, not too cold? So according to Rav Yosef, would say, okay, fine, it's fine. You don't have to remove all of the hide because it's not going to go bad. Whereas Rava would still say, yeah, but it's still, not honoring this, not mechubad for Kach Shemayim to be lying there half-skinned. Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, I Paul Hashem l'mayneu my avidle. What does Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka do with this pasuk of Kol Paul Hashem l'mayneu, that it has to be mechubad? After all, he says that you just need to do the minimum, slit the hide until, as long as you can get out the emurin. So he says, well, because shelo yotzes ha'emurin kodem avshata sa'or, my time amar Rav Huna breder Rav Nasan mishum nimen. So he says it means that do not remove the specified parts of the animal before you strip off the hide. Meaning theoretically you'd be able to, I guess, remove whatever fats you need to before stripping the hide. But what will happen is that you'll get hair from the hide of the sheep onto the emurin, and we don't want that to happen. So therefore what we're saying is, don't do more than you need to, but do what you need to make sure that you will be able to properly remove the emurin without getting like wool on it and stuff like that. Friends, that was Daf Kuftes Zayin. I think it was pretty cool, right? Right. So says, let's do a little recap of Daf Kuftes Zayin. So at the beginning we talked about Vayihi ben Saw Aaron, Vayomer Moshe. We had two opinions regarding that parsha. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that that parsha is not in the correct place. Really, it belongs to the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, with the rest of the stuff that talks about the encampments of the Bnei Israel. Rebbe says actually it's its own sefer. It's its own sefer, and there are actually 7 svarim in the Torah. Then we talked about saving the margins of a sefer Torah from fire. So the text area, if it gets erased and becomes sort of marginy, well, certainly you wouldn't save that, because the only kedusha inherent in the text area is when it's written. When it's not written, there's no kedusha. The question is, what about the margins that are not supposed to be written? They're supposed to be blank. That's their role. So would you save those margins from a fire? And we didn't really resolve it. We brought a few different proofs, but we ultimately were unable to find a definitive proof either way. We talked about these books of these heretics, of these meeneem. So if it's Shabbis and there's a fire burning, so you don't save them. Rabbi Yosef says if it's during the week, actually you'll remove the azkaros, you remove the names of God, and then let the rest of it burn, and you'll deal with the names of God properly. Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Shmuel both say let it all burn. Then we talked about reading ksuvim on Shabbos. We had 2 takes on a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Take number 1 is that according to Rav, it means you just can't learn ksuvim while there's the halacha shir going on. Once the halacha shir is over, you can read ksuvim. Whereas Shmuel says, no, you're not allowed to read ksuvim at all on Shabbos. The other way to understand the machlok is that according to Rav, it's only in the Beis HaMedrash that you're not allowed to read ksuvim. Outside the Beis HaMedrash, you can read ksuvim. According to Shmuel, it's only during the time of the shir. As long as the shir isn't going on, well, then you can read ksuvim wherever you want. We talked about Pesach that falls out on we talked about Erev Pesach that falls out on Shabbos. According to Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch, you just strip the hide until the chest, and you take out whatever emurim you need to, and then you leave the hide there until after Shabbos, and then you can finish removing the hide. According to Chacham, no, you remove all of the hide. How come? So because of the positive called Paul Hashem l'maneu, that everything, all actions of God are for His honor. So we want to make sure that we're honoring God. Rabbi Yosef says that if you have to remove all of the hide to prevent it from going putrid. Whereas Rava says it would be disrespectful to kind of just leave the hide half on, half off. After all, we are talking about a korban of God, so therefore you remove all of it. Friends, have an awesome day. Hope you enjoyed Daf Kuftes Zayin of Masechta Shabbos.